a bit of a promotion for me, granted. I don't know if Adam would agree with that, certainly. But listen, you're very welcome. I appreciate you taking your time out on a Friday at 7 o'clock to listen to us. Give another sort of update on what has been a super, super busy week for Rangers, for the podcast as well, which we'll come to very shortly. So I appreciate you taking time out to join us tonight. If you do want to get involved, don't forget, you can check in with us on the YouTube feed. We will get to your comments if and when we can. Let us know where you're listening from, viewing from, and we'll get to that as well. We should say 2 people joining us tonight. One, a seasoned podder, one, a sort of a new group, kind of young. Well, I think he's younger than what he lets on, to be honest with you. And yous are both laughing, so I know who how you think I'm about. Firstly, Shug joins us for his Friday night. Hi, Shug. How are you, mate?
I'm well, mate. I'm really good. I've been waiting for the football to return, and now I'm like, no, let's just keep the transfer window going.
And you've got the new top on as well, which I absolutely adore, mate. Well played.
It's a number one.
Absolutely. And listen, fresh from a wee break away to Barcelona, which we all just do in our spare time. Ross Chalmers is back.
To be honest.
No, you definitely can't. Expenses won't let it happen.
Yeah, can't keep that going. So maybe I've got rid of that trialist tag now. That's maybe me back my own name now.
I assume you had a good time.
It was great, mate. It was good to get away in it. But it was weird landing in Edinburgh when it was warmer in Edinburgh than it was in Barcelona that day. That was strange. Don't think that'll ever happen again, to be hononest. But,
listen, as always, you're very welcome. Well done. Thank you. So, listen, before we get into all the stuff that we're going to speak about tonight, it would be remiss of me to walk by a huge interview that we've done for the podcast group this week. We were lucky enough to get some time with Kevin Thompson. Really, really good interview. I spent about 90 minutes or so on, which was excellent. Very, very good indeed. Quite open and honest, as I think we've come to expect from Kevin Thompson, to be perfectly frank with you. He spoke about his career, how he got to Rangers, the things that went on there. Speaks wonderfully well and is very candid about his relationship and his thoughts on Walter Smith. The interview is outstanding. It goes out tomorrow. So I urge you to round about lunchtime, perhaps when you're on your way to Ibrox for the Walter Tull Memorial Cup against Spurs tomorrow. I urge you to stick it on. It's a great listen. He speaks very passionately about the club, and it's always nice to hear that from ex-players. Shug, we can't not speak about New Strip Day, and I know that Ross doesn't really understand or know the strip that this new kit has indeed been modelled on. In 1987, and between 1987 and 1990, we donned this fantastic Monaco-esque top. And of course, the new away kit for this season is very, very similar to it. What's your thoughts on it? Do you like
it? Honestly, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm surprised. I thought I was going to be the only one, but a couple of my friends have said that they're not really that keen on it. But if any of the players this season can be remembered as fondly as some of the players that wore that kit, then they are going a very long way to becoming legends. I can just about remember that top show which one of us two for us as the oldest. I can just remember that when I was growing up. It's a nice kit, but it's definitely third out of this season's for me.
And Ross, you're open enough to admit that you can't remember the original?
No, I don't have a clue. No, it'd have to be my dad tell me about that one, to be honest.
Goodness me.
I did see a picture. Was it David Cooper wearing it today?
Yeah, absolutely. Aye.
As a cracker, although it was back then, I'm kind of the same as Shug. I'm not a big fan of it, but I have to say I'm quite picky when it comes to football tops. So that it's not really too much to think about when it comes to my opinion. I'm a massive fan of the home tops that Castore have put out, but the away ones just haven't grabbed me yet. But listen, it's a throwback, isn't it? So people are going to love it, and they've done really well with the orange top and things this season. So it's all right. It's all right. I wish I could be more positive. I wish, but it's just I'm no thrilled with it. But listen, it's been a split on social media I've seen today as well. So
yeah,
it can go either way with these things.
Absolutely. And listen, I think you're absolutely right. The orange top in particular has been a huge seller. To bring that out pre-Seville was quite clever marketing, which doesn't really surprise us at all. I'll be honest with you, I really like it. I really like this new red and white kit. It does take me back to when I was a wee boy, and I was a wee boy when it came out the first time. Like it, I have to say, and I'll probably inevitably buy it. And Shug, I'll probably go top and shorts just for you, mate. Just for you, mate.
captain's armband.
Studs, the metal studs as well. Listen, so on the pod tonight, I want to speak about the last pre-season friendly of this pre-season prior to the real business starting again next weekend. The Walter Tull Memorial Cup is at Ibrox tomorrow when Rangers play Spurs. Antonio Conte spoke a little bit about them today. Looks forward to the atmosphere at Ibrox. I want to do a little bit about Ridvan Yilmaz, who looks to be on the verge of rocking up at Ibrox anytime soon. I wonder if there's an opportunity to see him early next week, if not sooner. I would hope so. We'll do a little bit about him. Ross, I want to speak to you first about James Tavernier. I don't think anyone expected him to get a new contract. Everyone was kind of waiting on the news to say that Ryan Kent or Morelos had autographed a new bit of paper. A wee bit surprised that Tav's the one that signed on instead.
I think I was originally surprised when I seen the news, but I started to have a wee think about the kind of the Lundstram signing, the Goldson renewal, and it might be one of these things from the club that's essentially just rewarding them. I'd imagine Goldson's salary structure has been upped significantly because that was his next contract since he arrived. So yeah. I was surprised at the time, but not so much now having to think about it. I mean, he deserves everything. I do like the idea of the kind of captain, the vice captain of a club being paid the most. I don't think clubs follow that anymore, but I do like that idea, and that might be something that Rangers are going for. So yeah, originally I was surprised, but not so much now. I mean, the guy deserves it. I mean, this guy is just the commitment, the loyalty he's shown to us. He's dragged us through really a lot of low points. You know, since he's arrived, he's been through a lot of bad results, and this guy just keeps coming back and back, and the numbers he puts up are incredible. It really is. I always say this when I'm speaking to my friends about this. We really won't appreciate James Tavernier until he goes. Yeah. You know, the numbers that he puts up from right back are just incredible, honestly. So, yeah, I think I was a wee bit surprised, but when you have a wee think about it, the guy deserves it, and I have absolutely no problem with it. So it's a great bit of business again from the board and Ross Wilson getting him tied up.
Sure, Ross is absolutely right. I think what he has demonstrated to us is that he's fell for the club in a big way since he came up here. And I think it's sometimes you forget he rocked up here with Martin Waghorn. I think I heard Reece talk about it on one of the midweek bulletins that he rocked up here with Martin Waghorn and no one really knew him. He was a bit of a journeyman at that point. He's never actually been a player that has stayed at a club for the length of time he has with us. It now looks like he's going to see out his career at Ibrox, I would suggest, and probably would go on to be one of our longest serving captains. I would suggest a testimonial was probably beckoning for him as well at some point in the not too distant future. This new contract, once it's confirmed by the club, which of course we should say it hasn't been yet, new contract apparently to 2026, which I think would take him to mid-30s, 34 or something like that. So he's obviously got no interest in going elsewhere. He's settled here. It's good to know that we bring up a player. We speak about players who come to Ibrox and get it. He's certainly of that ilk, is he not?
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. And in my eyes, unarguably the best right back that we've ever had. He's phenomenal, and I am surprised that he's getting a new contract purely on the basis that I don't think Tav's got any intention of leaving. I think he loves the club. I think even if he did the Goldson situation and run it right down, I think we'd all just still expect him to sign. Yeah. So I think he's here forever. I think he is one of the people that, obviously Gerrard held him in high regard. I think Gio holds him in high regard in setting them standards in training. I think him and Goldson both play a huge part in that. So I think we see what he does on the pitch is phenomenal, but I think what he's doing off the pitch is also at the same level. And the model that we've got just now, I imagine Tav had a huge influence on Barsi when he was here and helping Barsi out and things like that and integrating these youngsters into the club. And obviously with the players we've got coming through the youth, the likes of Leon King and things, I think Tav will have a big say and input into them being sat beside the likes of Tav. And I think he delivers the right message. I think he talks well about the club. And yeah, no, I'm happy for him to stay and have that armband for however long he likes.
Stu has burst into the sort of live chat on YouTube. Hi Stu, good evening, thanks for joining us. One thing I would agree with is that he said that with Tav signing on again for another 4 years, Ross, it takes away the need for, you would imagine it takes away the need for any further contract activity, depending on the terms of the contract. It perhaps scares off anyone that has been looking at him. Any potential suitors, I think, would have been very, very naive to not have taken notice of James Tavernier over the last couple of seasons. But you have to suggest that by him signing a new contract, it would perhaps make a club sort of rocking up over the border or across the water, because European teams are now taking notice of us again. It would surely put them off, because they'd be aware that they would have to put their hand in their pocket and pay top dollar for a top player.
I think so. I think if we're all honest, Tavernier's probably by that point now where you would expect significant interest because of his age.
Yeah.
But you're right, it definitely puts people off, and clubs aren't going to be willing to shell out the fee that Rangers are looking for. Rangers are going to look for silly money to let their captain go. And most clubs are going to look at that from a business point of view and say, can we really afford to be putting that much money into a 30-year-old? So, yeah, I think that'll definitely put clubs off. I think the other way I was looking at it as well, with Tavernier signing up for the long haul and Goldson the same, it gives me more confidence with kind of Kent and Morelos that they look at the club and they look at the kind of main figures in that dressing room and they're wanting to stay. Now, I understand people can have the opinion and look the other way and go, well, we've just lost Aribo, we've sold Bassey. But these guys are young, they're younger, and especially Bassey, the guy's got such a high ceiling. Kent's been here for so long now, Morelos is. They've all been here with Tavernier. They must look at that and think, surely I can stay here as well. Surely I can become the same sort of figure as Tavernier can in this club. Maybe that's me being overly optimistic, but that's the way I look at it, because you're right that he didn't need to sign a contract. He didn't have to. But the guy is, again, showing commitment. He wants to be here. And I think it's great for us. I think it's great for the dressing room. I think all over it's a positive for us.
Chuck, one thing I would say, and it takes us off of Tavernier, but borders on moving into the next point. Kent and Morelos have to be in the discussion next, do they not?
Yeah, I think that's... Well, I'll jump 3 steps ahead and say that about the next signing that's hopefully going to happen. I think that after that, I think the priority really is to get Kent and Morelos tied down. I think that is the news that every fan wants to hear. I think that's... I know... Well, I don't know because I'm not in the know, but I'm certain that Rose...
I don't believe for a second you're not in the know, Shug. Not for a minute.
I wish I was. But yeah, we know Rose Wilson have been working behind the scenes to try and get Kent and Morelos tied down for a long time. And we can see with the fact that Tavernier signed a new deal, he's not exclusively just dealing in transfers in. He probably does have a spare 1 or 2 minutes here and there to deal with the players at the club. Yeah. So that would be the next phenomenal bit of news, would be to see that Morelos and Kent sign deals. I think that's what all the fans want to hear. Absolutely positive on it.
Yeah.
Can I just say, if I would back Ross Wilson at the moment to do anything, to be honest with you. The moves that this guy's making, I would back him to be able to get Kent Morelos to sign. I'm that positive about this guy, which I just find... I mean, I've always felt the criticism was a wee bit over the top with Ross Wilson, but if you go back a month, June, the level of criticism this guy was getting on Twitter, and do you know what? Sometimes you can understand it. There's a bit of frustration. The transfers aren't moving the way you want, but I think this is evidence that a transfer window is 2-3 months. Give the guy time. They've obviously looked at June as being maybe contract renewals and departures. And then we get into July, and that's when we ramp up arrivals. I think this is just evidence for all of us to, next window, just calm down a wee bit, let them do the work that we all want them to do. So yeah, I would back this guy to get at least one of them signed up. I'm positive about that.
Listen, interested. Sorry, you go, Shug.
I'm astounded that we've all been moaning about the catering for years at Ibrox, and I noticed today Gordon Ramsay showed up. I don't know if Rose Wilson signed him up to do the pies.
I'll tell you, when I saw Ramsey was there, my heart skipped a beat, I must be honest. Listen, what we should say is that, Ross, you mentioned the D word, departures, and I think it's really interesting, because I think over the next week or so, I think we are going to have to maybe talk seriously about people leaving the club. The squad continues to be bloated, and at the moment we look like we are on the verge of bringing in a Turkish international left back, Fabrizio Romano, who I think everyone knows as just generally one of football's good guys, is sort of breaking it exclusively that the Rangers have indeed agreed terms with this chap Ridvan Yilmaz from Besiktas, €6 million, which I think is round about £5 million. If disclosed. There's obviously a sell-on fee there as well. His numbers and his YouTube footage, which, let's be honest, is probably all we've got to go on. He looks like a really clever option down the left-hand side, and almost, whisper it, Tavernier-esque.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. He looks very technical. And I think a lot of people will look at Yilmaz as, okay, you've lost Bassi. You know what you get with Bassi. He's so good physically. And I think people always think of, we need to replace that type of player. That's not necessarily the case. I think Yilmaz actually might suit our style a wee bit more. He looks very similar, I agree with you, to Tavernier, in that a lot of the clips I've watched, he's very willing to drive inside, which Tavernier is very good at. Now, I don't know if that is something that Van Bronckhorst wants. He wants this kind of inverted fullback. But he looks extremely technical, ability to carry the ball forward, and he looks like he's got a bit of that Borna in him as well. The majority of the clips I watched, his deep deliveries were fantastic, really good. This is the type of signing that we all want. I have to be honest, when I first seen the fee quoted, I was very surprised. Not because I don't believe we have the financial ability to do it, but it was more, I didn't think that would be the level of fee we would put out to replace Bassi. I thought it would be something around the 1-2 million mark.
Yeah.
You develop them. Whereas this guy's slightly different. We're definitely bringing him in as a kind of development option, but when you outlay that fee, there's an expectation. That's what comes with a fee like that. When we spend a fee like that, there's expectation. Yeah. This guy's coming into play. So he's going to have to do both. He's going to have to deliver performances, and he's going to have to develop at the same time. But yeah, he looks absolutely fantastic. He looks like a great bit of business. I'm really happy about it, actually, really good. That's the way I want to see the club going. I'm more willing to see the club spend the fees like this when you've got that potential resale value. And I think I said this in the last podcast, you can't have that for every signing, but the majority of them, that would be great. You know, that is planning for the long term, and this guy can come in and he can contribute right now, and that's what we need at the same time. So yeah, I'm all for it. It's a great signing.
Shug, the thing that's really exciting for me is that, and Ross alluded to it slightly there, we were talking about bringing in a guy for 5 years. So we obviously we see him as a bit, I think it's fair to say you maybe see him as a bit of a project. In the other instance, rather, we're forking out decent dosh for him, so he ain't coming to play second fiddle. What does it mean for Borna Barisic at left back?
Yeah, it's a strange one. Well, it's not strange. I think it's an absolute coup or a deal, because you can just see him doubling, trebling, quadrupling, whatever the price that we are paying for him. But it means that Borna's got a fight in his hands to keep hold of that left wing back position. What I've seen of him, we've talked about Rangers going to a back three, and that left wing back role looks absolutely nailed on for him. For Borna, he's got to keep doing what he's doing in pre-season, and he's got to keep putting his hand up and saying to Gio that, I'm playing well. Because we all know that Borna on top of his game is a top left back. And his delivery and things like that. And if he starts adding goals again that he did last weekend, it's only going to be good for him. But for us as fans to have two top Croatian and Turkish international fullbacks fighting out for one position, it's amazing. And on Fabrizio Romano, I reckon he should just go about a yellow tie on. And I love the fact, I think it says something for this club and where we are now that he's actually reporting on things to do with Rangers. He talks about Manchester United and Chelsea and all the big clubs in Europe and Rangers.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love that we're on his radar. So
Yeah.
it's exciting.
And listen, I don't care what anyone says. I think that run in the Europa League has absolutely put us back at the top table. And listen, you're absolutely right. Facetiously, we would never have, Romano would never have spoke about Rangers until maybe 2-3 years ago. Never. Partly to do with Steven Gerrard coming back in, hugely down to the run in European football last season. Listen, Ross, this guy's been linked with Spurs previously. Barcelona were looking at him. He nearly went to Frankfurt a couple of weeks ago, if you believe. So he is being tracked across Europe. One thing that I think is going to give us, and Gio, I think, is building a really clever squad this season. I think he's building a squad that is going to be able to play sort of 3-4-3, 3-5-2, but instantly drop back to maybe the following game, go back to a back four. We've seen him brought in Davies, who can play at left back or the left side of a duo or a three. He can play on the left side of a three. There's no doubt that Yilmaz can play left back or left wing back. I think the latter of those is where we'll see him at his best, with that ability to bomb forward and deliver those quality crosses into Morelos, Cholak, maybe even Kemar Roof. You never know.
Yeah, I think Shug makes a great point there. That's exactly what I was going to say before we moved on to the next point. It looks like, I think I said this in the last podcast I was on around Cholak, and that I'd watched a few clips of him and he looked very comfortable playing there too, but he'd also played a lot in a one up front. And it looks like Van Bronckhorst is definitely favouring players with tactical flexibility.
Yeah,
he definitely wants to be able to move things depending on the game. Now, from a personal point of view, I love a manager like that. I love a manager that will change things when he needs to. I'm a massive fan of Jose Mourinho, or the older Jose Mourinho, and he used to do that. How many times did he come up against teams in the Premier League and he would go, do you know what? I'm not going to toe this game. I'm just going to sit back. And he would change his whole style for the one game. I'm a massive fan of managers like that. And I think sometimes that's probably what let us down in domestic football, Steven Gerrard, because he was very unwilling to change. Now, it worked for us the majority of the time. And we went on that such great run 155, sorry. But I do like a manager that's got that tactical flexibility. And you're right, Yilmaz looks like he can play in that three. He can play as a wing back. Again, Ben Davies. Another one we're forgetting about is John Souttar.
Yeah.
John Souttar played in a three for Hearts. Very good on that right-hand side for Hearts. Very comfortable. And that centre-back kind of three there with a Goldston, Davies and Souttar is very well balanced. Souttar on the right-hand side can dive out of the ball. Davies very good with the ball at his feet, and Goldston's got those kind of long diagonals. So there's a lot of balance there. I'm just not sure if that suits domestic football. Do we really need another centre-back when we're at home to Ross County or St Johnstone? I'm not sure. But you're right. You're definitely right. The signings that he's making are for tactical flexibility, 100%. I think he's valuing that over... Obviously, we're looking to sign quality, but that is one of the main things. Can these guys come in? Can they be tactically flexible? And I think that's why we've seen the rejuvenation of John Lundstram last year when he brought him in. He obviously pinpointed early, this guy, I can play him really where I want to play him, and he'll give me 7, 8 out of 10 every week.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely valuing that. And I think that's great. From my own point of view, I think that's great. I love a manager like that. So I'm all for it, definitely.
Chuck, one of the things that these options, particularly in the centre defence role, brings for me is that in European football in particular, I think we'll be able to see John Lundstram play in his native position. He will play in that centre midfield role. Now, as good as he was dropping back into the two-guy role when he played it last season, and he was very good at it. He was comfortable in it. Looked like he'd played there before, and for years looks like he's played in that role. It's easy to forget it was his first season in European football last season. Smashed it everywhere he went. Absolutely smashed it. However, I think by us having more options in defence, we're not going to see him back in that role. So I think it allows him a bit more flexibility for when those big European games, touch wood, comes to Ibrox in the not too distant future. We'll see him in his best position.
Yeah, I think it's key to get your best players in their best position. And he undoubtedly showed in the second half of last season that he can be our best player. He's always going to have that if it's just that, like you've seen Gio doing it, he'll start with a 4 and then go to a 3.
Yeah.
Lundstram can always just drop back if need be, but if we can see him playing in the middle of the park more often and getting forward and get a goal like he did against Dortmund and things like that, then all the better for it. I think it's something that I'd like to see with Lundstram. It's more him driving forward with the ball and creating trouble at the edge of the box and things. So he's a great player, and he's got the ability to be there and be one of our best players all season. It's also added quality into the squad that players don't necessarily have to play 60, 70 games. Unless you're Goldson and Tav, in which case you're just going to play 90 minutes every single game of the whole. Doesn't matter how you're feeling, you're still going to be playing it. But certainly players can come in and rotate around and things like that. So yeah, but we'll see more this week. Like I said, players going out the door, see who gets shunted on and things like that. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about it and really excited to see Lundstram playing in his strongest position.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great. No, sorry to cut you off. I think that's a great point about Lundstram in terms of further up the pitch and that kind of chaos in the edge of the box. He looks like he has a really great strike on him.
Yeah.
But where I also find a lot of value in John Lundstram is when Rangers lose the ball. When they lose the ball, he can cover the ground so well. I think we've seen it a lot in that semi-final against Celtic. He was everywhere. Every time Rangers lost the ball, he was the first one kind of stopping the break, stopping the transition. And I think we'll get a lot more out of John Lundstram if you push him that wee bit higher. He doesn't necessarily have to be the guy that's going to play that splitting pass in the edge of the box, but he's that guy that tidies up. So if Rangers lose the ball, he can get in and keep the pressure on. And that's usually what can be the difference. That's usually when you break a team down, they think they've got possession, they think they can push out, bang, you win the ball back and you're back through on goal. I think that's the value that John Lundstram brings. So I think Shug makes a great point there. If we can get him further up the park, I think you're going to get a lot more value out of him. I mean, right now that doesn't seem possible because the guy's been unbelievable for us the second half of the season. But I genuinely believe you'll get even more out of this guy. He looks fantastic when we lose the ball. He's so good at picking it up. He's great.
No, I feel agree with you. As I say, I think the opportunity to have him playing in his main position, particularly in the big European nights at Ibrox, that's where you want to see him. And that's without no criticism at all as to how well he played in the centre of a three. I would just like to see him stick to that role, and I think we now have options behind him which would allow him to do that. Listen, the 22-23 season is almost upon us, incredibly. I don't know where July has disappeared to. And tomorrow at Ibrox, final home friendly of the season, and we welcome Tottenham Hotspur to Ibrox for the Walter Tull Memorial Cup. So for anyone who's looking in and wanting to know a bit more about Walter Tull, he was the first black outfield player to play for both clubs pre-World War I. So there's a connection there. There is a Memorial Cup for him, and we will contest Spurs at Ibrox tomorrow. Antonio Conte, Shug, has went on record today saying that he's really looking forward to the atmosphere at Ibrox. I don't know if he's clocked yet that the game's a sellout. So I think if he thought it was going to be good with it just being a pre-season game, I think he's in for a bit of a shock tomorrow when he turns up and the Bears are in full voice. Yeah,
it's phenomenal. It's just it's expected. Rangers fans showing up in numbers, full house at Ibrox. It's going to be. And there'll be more to it than because bringing in all these players have got a fight on the hands to keep positions. And with the season starting, it's the last chance for them to really show and put their foot in and tell Joe that I'm your man for that position. So in front of the crowd, I think it's going to be a really competitive friendly. I think I've nailed my colours to the mast and saying that the Rangers number one will be decided tomorrow. Whoever's got the gloves on tomorrow afternoon, I think, will be our starting number one for the season.
And listen, before we get into that debate, who do you think it's going to be?
I'm going with McGregor.
Yep, agreed.
You see that there's a difference, isn't it? Who do you think it's going to be, and who do you want it to be?
Well,
so that is different, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's going to be McGregor, but I'd like it to be McLaughlin. So. Yeah, it's a bit of a different question.
I think I think Shug's the same as me. I think we're both in the same sort of boat, Shug. I think we would both like to see McGregor start as number one for this season for a variety of different reasons. There is maybe a bit of sentimentality there, which is probably unfair. But I do think he's the best keeper we have, and I did all of last season, and from what I've seen so far, I'll stick by it. to this stage. Ross, it's a huge occasion at Ibrox tomorrow. Tottenham bring lots of quality and international players. Harry Kane, Son, I imagine would be there. They've got Richies all across the park, so it'll be a good test for our guys tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, they're bringing some world-class players tomorrow, by the way. World-class. Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, great players. Really, really good players. It'll be a big test for us. This is another real step up from West Ham. And I think we all know Antonio Conte, he is not bringing a team to play a pre-season friendly. He's bringing a team to win. 100%. This guy is serious all the time. Massive fan of him. Love his mentality, and they are coming up with a strong squad. They will be looking to win this game. And I mean, it says all you need to know. They spent, I think it was 60 million on Richarlison, and this guy isn't even guaranteed to play every week. Obviously, Kulusevski as well, Bentancur, they've got great players everywhere. So this is great for us. I really expect us to go for it, to be honest. I think we've played the same way. We really went for it at West Ham the other night. We went great in the first half, but again, it's pre-season, is it? You're rusty. It takes you a while to get through things. I'd love us to go for it, but this Tottenham team will, if we make a mistake, and we did make a few the other night against West Ham, they will punish us. Heung-min Son and Harry Kane are probably, statistically, they're the best link-up in terms of a pair in the Premier League, and they will absolutely kill us on the counter-attack if we make a mistake. So this is a great test for us, really good. I'm really interested to see the lineup they puts out. Shug made a great point there with the number one. That will be an indication. I think it's an indication for Livingston. I think the whole team is. Barring maybe a couple, I think the team tomorrow will probably be the team at Livingston, because we've got that closed door friendly at Queen's Park, I believe, on the Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you would expect more of the players that don't play tomorrow to play in that. So I would expect most players, if they start tomorrow, should hit the 60, 65-minute mark. And I think that'll be a great indication for us of what the team's going to be for Livingston. So, yeah, great test for us tomorrow. I really want us to go for it. Press high, take risks. And listen, it's great for them to play against players of this quality as well. It's fantastic. You want to play these guys, regardless if it's pre-season or not. You want to play against these guys. You want to test yourself. So I'd imagine the Rangers will be right up for it just as much as Spurs are. So, yeah, it'll be a great game to watch.
Absolutely. Ross Alexander Campbell on the YouTube feed is exactly with you. He wants to see McLaughlin as number one next season. I think you're absolutely right. I think the guys that start tomorrow will give us a real indication of who will start at the Tony Macaroni. I'm not sure. One thing I probably should have researched better, Shug, and you may remember this because you and I are of a similar vintage. Doesn't look like that, but we definitely are. I think Antonio Conte would have played for Juventus in the 4-0 doing that we got in the European Cup at Ibrox, when they had guys like Torricelli playing, Del Piero played. Something rings in my mind. Vialli maybe played that night as well.
Yeah, he might have done.
I think Conte played that.
It's the other side of getting older, so your memory's going as well. So.
I know it well. You don't need to tell me, mate. It's okay. You don't need to tell me. Listen, guys, I've enjoyed your company tonight. Ross, thanks for coming on. We'll look forward to getting you back on the not too distant future. Well done, buddy.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me.
And Shug, always good to see you, mate. Well done. I'll look forward to seeing you a new top on next time. The red and white one, you've got to go and get it. You will go and get it.
No, I might get the orange one out my draw next time. The red and white one. No, it's not happening this season.
So listen, I should say a hello to Johnson Ho, who's tuning in tonight, who is very, very close to me just now. So he's watching the podcast with a glass of vino. So I hope he enjoys that and it goes down very well indeed. Listen, we should say that, as I said earlier on at the start of the podcast, we do have an exclusive interview with Kevin Thompson coming out tomorrow, Saturday afternoon. So if you're on your way to Ibrox, I'll urge you to put it on. Really, really good chat I managed to get with him this week. Very passionate about the club, very passionate indeed. Loved this time with us, and still to this day speaks very well about his time in and around the changing room at Ibrox. If you can check it out, please do.